can biological men get pregnant? And then he's pinpointed on that.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Got to answer the question at some point and then move on and reframe.
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool that
Can men get pregnant?
I feel like there was a battle of egos here. Viral moment of making this Dr. Verma look stupid.
And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men.
This frame became tighter until there was a cage. Hello, welcome again. I'm Jasky, Australia's #1 street interviewer. And today, this is something I love to do. And that is investigate and analyze an uncomfortably tense situation. It's really what I've done very well in my life, is put myself in tense situations and make them hopefully interesting to watch and understand how to handle tense situations. Now, the pretext is we are forever put in these situations where you are asked something and potentially you've lied. And now you've got to defend yourself. You've got to find your way to navigate out of it. Now, we shouldn't lie, but some of us, looking at you guys, you do. I obviously never do. We are put in situations where we are being questioned in a very compressed, direct manner. And without having the necessary training, we crumble. We don't know how to navigate one of those situations. We sometimes are with a boss. We're in a personal conflict. We are interrogated. Depending on your role, there are really left field questions that you have to then respond to. And in all of those situations, there is a framework for those that know how to handle it to follow. But the best way to know how to handle those situations is to watch a situation on how you definitely should not do it. So this is your how not to guide of handling one of those tense interrogations. Now, interrogations may be a strong word. I'm not talking about actual moments of interrogation. Not many of us have to experience those. Now, if you haven't seen this video is called "Can Men Get Pregnant?" I shouldn't be laughing because, unfortunately, this woman that you see in this video, a qualified doctor, I believe, handled this so poorly that I don't think it could have been any worse, that it became an absolute viral moment. So I'll let it play out for a bit so you can be entertained by watching the video. Then I'll come back and I'll provide some commentary. Okay?
Why don't we just start there? Dr. Verma, I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics.
Absolutely.
So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with many identities, but
can men get pregnant?
I take care of many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women. That
can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So can men get pregnant? You're a doctor,
agree.
I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men, can they get pregnant?
I also think yes/no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes/no questions are about the truth, doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding.
It is, like I said, it's a example of how not to handle a situation like that. Now, putting the situation in perspective, it was one of these Senate hearings. So before this video begins, she would have said, look, I believe in science guiding our decision-making in medicine. And she must have said something that allowed this senator, his name's Josh Hawley, who does a great job, right? He does his job very, very well, but we're not talking about his job. We can later. But he asks, she must have said something around a vague answer around, can biological men get pregnant? And then he's pinpointed on that, right? And that's typically what happens in these situations, is there is a moment where something has been said or something has not been said, and someone will pinpoint into that. And that is where the tension, that is where training in that situation allows you to navigate that tension effectively. Okay? So, the first step in handling one of those situations is it's called setting a frame. Now, the senators set the frame saying that, can men get pregnant? That's the frame. And instead of answering, so she just tried to say some vague thing to try and answer the frame instead of immediately trying to challenge the frame. Right? So let me put it into actual words. Is, can men get pregnant? Now, the best thing to do in that situation, and best thing to do in any situation when you're questioned about the thing, is to just mirror back and ask about the thing. Is to say, get pregnant? Right? That multifold, what that does is, one, it may derail the other person because they may not even know what they're trying to ask. Right? He might then have to clarify what it means to be pregnant. It might, what am I actually trying to say? Like, it gives you a chance to let them unravel, and then you're challenging the frame, allowing you to maybe detour away from it. Right? If you mirror it early, you never have to escape it later. Right? You're asking it up front. Get pregnant, and just stop talking. Let them respond. Slows down the momentum, gives you time to think, and you're not jumping straight in to put yourself in a further corner. Once you can't fight a trap from being inside it, right? And he got her inside that trap. So that's the way to handle any of these situations. When you are questioned about the thing, just mirror it, anything. I don't understand the context of why she's not answering the question. I imagine, if I'm hypothesizing why she's not answering it, is because of her being a medical professional. She has to take a very progressive view to not alienate people in her, her clientele and whatever, or her colleagues or whatever. Maybe they all believe you should just be open to it, which is perfectly fine. But she just tried to explain her hesitation instead of. She kind of leaned into it, saying, I don't know what the goal of the question is. But then I think the next thing you want to do is you want to get clarity. So initially mirror it. Doesn't give you enough clarity. You can just ask, hey, because obviously she's trying to protect her professional career, which in this case, she's railroaded to no extent. If you're a patient, I don't think you're using her as a doctor after this. But you can go back and say, can you clarify what you're trying to establish? There is a reason he's asking that question. And again, it just gives you a second to just get clarity. You're allowed to ask with a little bit of silence. Just say, hey, I'm more than happy to answer the question. Can you please clarify what you're trying to establish? Okay.
This is about science and evidence. And I'm asking you on this question, this is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor. And you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not. I'm trying to get, it's not complex. I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is
male
extraordinary.
female with.
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things.
It's just getting worse. It is consistently getting worse on how that situation is handled. It indicates someone like that with limited training should not be put in those situations. Because one, it is unfair. You're dealing with someone who's incredibly trained. the opposing side of the person asking the questions, the senator, he knows what he's doing, right? He is pinpointing right down to something he knows she's not going to get an answer on. Like he's staying on target. Uh, i- it's creating the consistent tension on the one question that the only way to handle that is you've you've either got to, like I said, push it back. You can mirror it for once, provide clarity. He comes back, provides the same clarity. You've now got to go back and try and answer the question. You can say, hey, what are you trying to establish? So you've mirrored it, you've tried to clarify. The only other thing you can do here is then label the intention of the person. What is this senator trying to do? I don't actually know. But if I'm gathering here, he's trying to get a soundbite and go in this viral moment of making this Dr. Verma look and stupid. And he's achieved it, right? I imagine that's what's happening. And it's created this viral moment. So he's done his part. But she can respond with that by saying, look, it sounds like you're testing whether I'm going to give you that soundbite. It sounds like you're testing whether you can get a viral moment out of me. It sounds like you're trying to achieve, you're pinpointing the thing, the emotion. But more so than anything, there's no answer. There's ramble. It's just making her look worse and worse by not answering and then just not reframing and moving on. And you can answer without alienating whatever your clients or colleagues that she's obviously trying to protect. I don't know what she's trying to do here. I actually don't really understand. You can just answer the question. Say, hey, biological males cannot get pregnant, but medical care involves people with diverse identities. Simple. You can just stop, move on. Look, hey, I understand. The question you're asking is biological males, yes, cannot get pregnant. But in medical care, we get a lot of people with a lot of different identities, different ways of understanding the gender, and we are open to that. Okay, where does a person go next? You've left enough room to not fuck up your position, which is what she's trying not to do. You've got to answer the question at some point and then move on and reframe, not just get in a cycle of rambling and lamenting and not going anywhere because it's making it significantly worse.
There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question, it sounds like to me.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
Again, I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized and push.
I'm not trying to be polarizing. I'm trying to ask, I think it is.
It is one of the worst responses you can have about saying something is political and polarizing by being political and polarizing. So, and you're escalating the emotion. You are not getting out of the frame. You're stuck in the frame and you're digging yourself a deep, deep hole. So I don't understand. Like, she has not used silence. There are moments where you can use silence. You can pause. You can allow the person to just keep talking. Sometimes just pausing and looking at the person for a second can allow them to keep talking and potentially just move away from the topic. This, in this case, is such an easy way to answer this question, and continuously evading the answer is making it significantly worse. Now, I don't care about her political ideologies or whatever beliefs she has. It doesn't matter. But at some point now, you've got to move away from getting further stuck inside this tunnel.
Extraordinary that we are here in a hearing about science and about women. And for the record, it's women who get pregnant, not men. We are here about the safety of women and science that shows that this abortion drug causes adverse health events in 11% of cases. That's 22 times greater than the FDA label, another fact you haven't acknowledged, and yet you won't even acknowledge the basic reality that biological men don't get pregnant. There's a difference between biological men and biological women. I don't know how we can take you seriously and your claims to be a person of science if you won't level with this on this basic issue. I thought we were past all of this, frankly. I can't believe we're still here talking about this.
I am a person of science, and I'm also someone here who's here to represent the complex experiences of my patients, and I don't think polarized language or questions serve that goal. I don't think they serve the American people.
It is not polarizing to say that there is a scientific difference between men and women, and I want this to be clear and for the record. It is not polarizing to say that women are a biological reality and should be treated and protected as such. That is not polarizing, that is truth. It is also, by the way, the United States Constitution, which offers unique protections to women in a variety of circumstances as women. And your refusal to recognize women as women and men as men is deeply corrosive to science, to public trust, and yes, to constitutional protections for women as women. And I think it's extraordinary that you would sit here and advance a political agenda that has been thoroughly discredited and rejected by the American people in this forum. And I'm glad we had this exchange because it is exceptionally clarifying. It is also in many ways quite depressing.
I think you can definitely see is the interrogator has done an incredible job, right? Allowed no room and allowed no means of communicating aside from the point that he's trying to drive. Again, I don't know his goals and intentions in this interrogation. I don't actually know what the point of these things are. I always just see them as very heated moments where someone is being put under the spotlight. But that is where training is incredibly important to know and have a few frameworks in mind where you can handle this situation. Okay? But he is an incredibly trained person to deal with these sort of situations. And he's doubling down and then he's stacking, which is another technique from the other side, which we're not discussing in this video, but I'll give you the summary, is the ability to stack. And that is stacking more and more evidence on the answer she's refusing to give. He's going onto using the Constitution as a point of evidence. He's using what she's said previously. He's also saying, as a doctor in this field of what we are discussing right now, this should be a baseline before we even get to the discussion. So it is just stacking all evidence and receipts against her, putting her in a very, very poor situation on how a very simple question has been answered. And I'm not saying you have to answer by saying that is the case. If you don't, I don't know, if you don't believe it, you have to answer it. Avoidance and explaining your hesitation for an answer invites the compression and invites the other side to continuously barrage you even further. So let me summarize. Elite negotiators, they don't explain themselves. They got to contain, reframe, stop, and get out of the frame. Get to a frame where they're more comfortable. This frame became tighter until there was a cage. So, mirror. Can men get pregnant? Get pregnant? Then clarify. Hey, I would love to know what you're hoping to achieve out of this question, in a tone of actual inquisitiveness, not aggression. And I feel like there was a battle of egos here. Her ego was, I'm not going to answer this question. I'm just not going to fucking do it. I'm just not going to answer this question. Continuous ego around that. And look how it ended, right? You've got to be strategic and not worry about, oh, I'm just not going to answer it because I believe whatever I believe. And me answering it is is bowing down to answering a question that I shouldn't need to answer. Whatever her thinking is around it, which I really can't understand. Mirror, clarify, then label the thing. Label the emotion here. Bring the emotion down. You've got to say, hey, I'm gathering here by this interaction that you are trying to get a clippable moment from me. You are trying to achieve a viral moment as opposed to us discussing the thing, right? And then this will get you hopefully 3 steps of avoiding the frame until you then have to answer the fucking question. Answer it, but answer it with enough leeway for you to protect whatever you're trying to protect. Okay? Any tense situation, you can always answer in a way that still leaves room for you to not to commit, but not fully commit, if that's what you want to do. Or if you want to commit and move, but stop. Explanations allow more room for the hyenas to bite, right? Hyenas to come in for the scraps. So, look, none of this is easy. Let's be real. These skills aren't taught in medical school. As a plug, I do teach them to a select few, only a select few. If you are one of those that want to learn skills like this and other skills that can make you into a top 1% communicator, with the frog that's in my throat making me the top 99% communicator, jaskysing.com. You can go in there, you can get a workshop, and within 90 minutes, I can transform your communication. There's a lot of pre-facing questionnaires which can give me the guidance on what you're trying to achieve. And I guarantee you at the end of the workshop, having done it with so many people, I can transform their communication skills if that is what you would like and would make an impact in your life. But like I said, it's not easy. This is not taught in medical school. And unfortunately, medical professionals have to face this sort of scrutiny quite often. And having someone sit in a situation like this without the framework and without the necessary training and skills resulted in a shit show. So thank you. See you next time. Bye-bye.